What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wholesaling Extreme with none other than myself, the one and only Marks. Brief explanation about this channel. I get asked a lot about mentoring and coaching in this wholesaling game. And since I'm so new to this, I don't feel like I should be coaching people, charging them to, teach them what I know. So I decided to get on YouTube, share my stories, share my journey, really. So if I'm gonna do that, I guess I'll start at the beginning on how I even began to start wholesaling in the first place. So if I'm gonna start there, I need to go way back. So just buckle your seatbelts, because it's gonna be kind of a bumpy ride for me. Hopefully it'll teach you something in the long run. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Just like everyone else out there, you kind of have to start somewhere. So if I'm going to start this, I'm going to go back to my very, very beginnings. I'll make it really quick. Grew up, my dad was in the Navy and my mom was a nurse. So we grew up very, 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 very comfortable. There was never a time where I had to go without, or my family had to go without. It wasn't until, I'm a speed up a little bit. It wasn't until I became, a young adult, graduated high school, went out to play college football at a junior college for a year. That didn't really work out for me, and I came home, and that's kind of when life, decided to put their arm around, a young man's shoulder. From there, I already knew that I wanted to be a business owner, but at that time I was a little naive. I thought being a business owner took a few things, which mainly was college. So I thought I needed a 4-year degree to end up owning my own business. And at that time, the business I wanted to own was a car dealership. Only businessman I knew owned a car dealership, and I kind of liked his lifestyle, so it interests me. The other thing that I'm interested in is fitness. A lot of you know me, I'm interested in fitness. So that was my first business that I ever started. About a year before I started wholesaling. But let me get back on topic. I decided that working for someone else wasn't for me very, very early. My freshman year in college, the summer after my freshman year in college, I had my first job at a warehouse. I'm not going to say which warehouse, but I had a job at the warehouse, and with one of my closest friends, we started working at the same time. And I knew it wasn't for me on maybe the second day of work. Anyone that's ever worked in a warehouse kind of knows the layout of everything. It's kind of repetition. It's an assembly line. So what it was we were making boxes. I was working for a box corporation, and there were a bunch of tables stacked, in front of each other, and one person did one thing and they passed it to the next and passed it to the next. My job was to put a little dab of glue on the box and pass it on to someone else for them to put whatever they needed to put on the box. And on the second day, we're at work. From my understanding, we're all grown, we're at work, we're doing our job, and my closest friend, he's sitting next to me, and I'm talking to him, and the supervisor comes in and they're like, "Hey, you guys stop talking, quiet on the floor, just do your job." And at first I'm thinking they're joking. I'm thinking, we're at work, this isn't school, like they're teaching a lesson. We're at work doing our job, we should be able to talk. Maybe this is, people continue to talk, and people are getting written up and getting fired for talking, and that right there kind of threw red flags from the jump. Never would I ever thought that in my workplace I would be told what I can do, as far as simple as just talking to the person next to me. I know there's rules everywhere you go, but just having a simple conversation while you're doing your job was kind of it was a little extreme for me. So from there, it only got worse. I worked at multiple different warehouses. I would get in there, and the old head was telling me, what do you want to do, youngster? Like what's your dream? What do you want to do for the long haul? And it always had me thinking. I would always tell them I want to own my own business, and I was into fitness, and they had their ideas to try to help me out, but it all like resonated in me. Every place that I went to, I was told the same thing by the people that were there for the longest. Don't get trapped here. It's basically what they tried to tell me. Don't get trapped here. And just like anyone else, when you come from a working class family, everyone else tells you, get a good job, work there 20, 30 years, retire, and then, you'll be set. You'll get that retirement check, et cetera, et cetera. We all know now that's, it's a thing for some people. It may be your thing, but for me, that just wasn't for me. And I knew it wasn't for me for that simple reason. Another reason why I knew it wasn't for me is every time I started, filing for my income tax, anyone that's ever gotten to that place, I'm pretty sure you have, each year I would have 5 to 7 W-2s to file. Now that should tell you something. I had 5 to 7 jobs per year from the age of 19 up until when I started wholesaling last year, 27. So I would never stay at one place because if I didn't like the infrastructure, if I didn't like the way they treated their employees, if I didn't like what was going on, I was like, well, I don't have to put up with it. I'll figure it out on my own. So fast forward into more of getting into wholesaling. The way I started this, I would always try to find myself a way out of the matrix. That's what I like to say that this is like. It's like the matrix, and I would always try to find ways to get out of it. And I did a few get rich quick schemes. Those pyramid schemes that people try to talk you into. I kind of fed into those and tried those out and stuff like that. So all of those failed, of course. Anybody that's doing pyramid schemes or whatever they call it, it's abbreviation. If you're doing that, then I'm sorry, but it just wasn't for me. So after a while, I started having kids. Had my first kid pretty young. I don't say pretty young. Around 21, I had my first kid, and I jumped into the workforce. As far as a career, I decided, no more school, no more warehouses. I'm going to go into something. So I started working as an HVAC contractor, under an HVAC contractor. So I started doing that initially, and that's what kind of got me into homes. And I would work for people that would do wholesaling, other investors, but I didn't know what that was at that time. Fast forward, I'm still jumping from job to job, trying to find what was right. I have to provide for a child now. And fast forward a little bit more to get more into, more detail. I'm trying to give you guys as much context as possible. Fast forward, I have my second child, a little girl now. And I'm trying to figure this thing out, still trying to find my way in and out of the rat race. And I'm thinking, I need to go back to school. So I can pursue my dream in fitness. I wanted to become, a coach, coach in high school, eventually work my way up to college, maybe the NFL, but my dream was, coaching at college. Skills coach. I didn't have to be the head coach. I just wanted to be around the game. That's what I loved. I wanted to be around the game. And I love fitness. So I tried getting back into school. Things didn't kind of work out because, things didn't work out in the beginning. So I had to pay for school. Financial aid wasn't a thing. So now I owe $27,000 in student loans. So Sally Mae is knocking on my door. I have 2 children. Like I said, I have 5 to 7 jobs per year that I have to file taxes on. So I didn't really get too much of a tax return. And things started spiraling out of control, and I just didn't know what to do. So I ended up finding Gary Vaynerchuk around maybe a year from today. So 1 year ago, I found Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, and I started listening to him. I would always see his videos, back when you scroll on Instagram, you'll see a video and it'll start playing and it had the words on at the bottom. I would see it and I would keep going. I would like the caption, like, oh, okay, it's a cool caption, but I would keep going. I never clicked it. But one day I decided to click on it, and it resonated in me. I was like, this guy kind of sounds a little bit like me. A little more into my background. I jumped into YouTube a few years ago with a few of my relatives, my closest friends. It was called HLG, so we jumped into that. When Instagram was really, really, really new. So I kind of knew marketing strategies. I knew how social media worked, but it ended up not working out all together because, everybody wasn't on the right page. Everybody wasn't on the same page. It could have worked, but shout out to those guys over there at HLG. They're getting everything ramped back up now. So I'm pulling for those guys. But yeah, so I'm listening to Gary Vee. I'm like, wow, he's saying a lot of the stuff that I used to tell my guys when we were doing HLG. Like, you gotta put in the effort, hard work. Anybody that listens to Gary Vee knows what I'm talking about. So I started listening to him more and more and more, and he started talking about different things that, in my mind, I thought I was on top of, but I realized that I was not. I was trying to, I was trying to be appealing to everyone else. I was basically doing everything for everyone else. My job, I wanted everybody to know that I was working at a good job rather than working somewhere that I wanted to work. I wanted my apartment to be nice so people would know that I'm making it in some type of way. I wanted my car to be nice, so you know what I mean? I'm basically living my life for other people. And once I heard Gary Vee say that, I was like, wow, that's crazy. And he would always talk about, if he could live with his parents, he would, and save money and stop spending money on stupid shit, excuse my language. So I took that to my significant other. I took it to her, and she didn't like it. I didn't tell her it was Gary Vee's idea. That would have been crazy. But I did tell her, hey, we're kind of in a situation where we have to move out of a nice house. But like I said, we were living beyond our means to impress other people. So we moved out of that into an apartment. And now I'm coming to her, telling her, you know what, maybe we should move in with our parents, get ourselves on the right track, start my business, start your business, because she wanted to jump into rodeo. So I'm talking about this, and she hated it, but then, I eventually convinced her. So we moved back in with our parents, and I'm still listening to Gary Vee, and I'm working insurance sales at this time. Now, working insurance sale, it was whenever I chose insurance sales, it was between insurance and real estate. Now, I chose insurance because what I didn't know at this time. I got on Google, and what I looked up was this annual salary for an insurance agent and a real estate agent. Insurance agents didn't really work off of commission in some cases, but they did in a lot of cases. So I chose them because I didn't want to work off commission. Got into insurance. I liked it. I had a steady job, gave me a steady paycheck. It was easy. Sat behind a desk, signing people up for insurance. It was a piece of cake. And one day, I decided to watch. Not even decided to watch. I actually saw a video of Nipsey Hussle when he was a little younger, talking about assets and real estate, and, appreciation and depreciation. I didn't know who he was at the time. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, because I don't really listen to too many people. I listen to Lil Wayne, Drake, and I really keep those two on repeat. So at that time, I didn't know who Nipsey Hussle was, but that resonated, that stayed in my head. I was like, that's a smart guy. But anyway, I'm getting off topic again. What I decided to do was something a little different. I still tried to figure out how would I get out of this rat race. What do I need to do? I'm sitting at home, and I think I have it all figured out. I'm just going to save up a little bit of money. I'm going to get my fitness stuff off the ground. Gary Vee told me, just put out content. I'm putting out fitness videos. I'm thinking I'm going to be an influencer via fitness. And I'm sitting at home, and I'm watching, Netflix, and I see a documentary come out by Killer Mike. Not really a documentary, but it's sort of like a documentary. You guys know that show. So I started watching it, and me and my wife, we finished the entire series that night. And I was like, man, I never heard of Killer Mike, but I like this guy's mindset. He's pretty funny. I like this guy. Let me look him up. And I guess for promotional reasons, he was on The Breakfast Club like a week after, it aired. So I get on YouTube and I see his interview. So I was like, let me click his interview. Let me see where his mind is. And he's talking to DJ Envy about real estate. And, they're talking about a bunch of different stuff. And we watched the video. I was like, okay, that was very informational. And then the very, very next video, YouTube just scrolls to the next video. Me and my wife are talking, and this guy named Mark Whitten pops up. And he's talking about real estate. I'm kind of just listening to him as background noise. And I hear him giving websites to go to in order to actually do these things. And I stopped talking to my wife. I started paying attention. I was like, hold on a minute. Because we've all heard, people talk about real estate. I made my money in real estate, and I did this and I did that. But you never hear anyone tell you what it took to get there unless you buy a course or you become a real estate agent. So I thought, whatever the case may be. So I'm like, wow. So I restart the video, took out a notepad and started writing all this stuff down. And when I got to work that next day, I started doing the stuff that he was saying on the Breakfast Club. And I used my parents' address, any person's address that I knew. I started doing that information, and it was working. I was like, wow, this is crazy. So I started looking into wholesaling as a whole, trying to find who has courses and things like that. We'd all heard those commercials online. Hey, if you want to, flip houses without using your own money, your own credit, come to this free event. And I've heard people go to those free events. I was actually a maintenance supervisor at a point. And one of my maintenance guys went to that seminar. It was like, yeah, I went to the seminar. It was a free seminar, but they said I need $10,000. I don't have that much, but I'll try to get it. So whenever I heard that stuff, that's all I thought. It was like, it's a scam. They're just trying to get all your money. So I started looking up these different seminars, and I ran into Jay Morrison. I'd already read Robert Kiyosaki. I think I'm saying that right. I already read his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'd already read that, but didn't think anything about wholesaling at the time. And I ran into Jay Morrison. His class was somewhere around, I think it was north of 500 at the time. I didn't have the money. Like I said, we'd moved back home. So I'm back at home with my parents, but I wanted to put my money in certain places. So then I ended up, let me look into Mark Whitten. I saw his video. Let me look and see if he has a course. So I look and I see he has a course, and it says it's on sale for $197. I look at my bank account. I have $200 in my bank account. $200. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my best friend. I didn't tell anyone. I just paid for it, leaving me with $3 in my bank account. It was a big risk. But I took the class. I started studying it and studying it and studying it, and it started making sense to me. Everything he was saying in the course, I started doing. And it started becoming apparent to me that this thing could work, but I still didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't want everyone to tell me, hey, this is another get-rich-quick scheme of yours. I don't see why you're doing it. Because like I said, I've been trying to get out of the Matrix for the longest. I was Neo and Morpheus was nowhere around. Everyone thought I was crazy. But you could say Mark Whitten was my Morpheus. But anyway, so I started implementing these things. I started cold calling cash buyers. I started cold calling people whose address I skip traced. When I got off of work at 5, I would drive around neighborhoods before going home. On weekends, I would drive through neighborhoods, and one day I got a call back from a lady who wanted to sell her house, and I just started implementing everything that Mark was saying in his course. And I hadn't even really completed the course altogether. It was just 4 hours, but I felt like there were still things that I didn't know. So I would always revisit the course, listen to it, because he had some sort of MP3 file that you could download the course rather than watching it. You could listen to it. So I'm at work doing all this while I was at work. Supervisor would walk by, I would sneak on to the class and I would watch it with my earplug in and go through it and clock out on break and go call people. I was really hustling at that time. And this lady finally called me back, and I'm thinking, wow, this is really happening. I hope I know what to say. But since I've been in customer service for so long, I knew how to talk to her over the phone and in person. So we meet up at the house. It was boarded, vacant. And I found it by driving for dollars. I didn't have any apps. I didn't put any money into it other than the $197 and a little bit of gas. And she entertained me the whole time. I walked around the house with her and her husband. My wife and my kids were sitting outside in the car. I'm going through with the repair sheet. I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying everything that I learned in this course. And she said she's going to think about my offer. Now, from my offer, I'm thinking it's a low ball. I'm thinking that she's never going to accept it. It's too low. She calls me back the next day and she's like, yeah, we can't do that, but we can do, and she went up 5,000. So I offered 15. She said she could do 20. I'm thinking, okay, well, for my ARV and all this other stuff, I think that might work. I still didn't know what I was doing, but I was learning as I went. So I started, I put out some bandit signs once I got under contract. I started calling these cash buyers that I'd called previously and got their emails, text messages. I'm texting these people, I'm calling them, I'm trying to get these people to come out to see if they're interested in this property. And after 2 days, nothing happened. So I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna put this on Facebook Marketplace, because I'm always buying stuff on Facebook Marketplace. If I need a TV, I would get on there, type TV. I don't have to buy it right now. I would just look and find a deal. And I was like, hey, I can come meet you now. I'll come look at it. I'll buy it. So I was like, let me do this with the house. Wasn't really taught in the course. So I was like, let me try this out. I posted it while I was at work around lunchtime. By 3 o'clock, I had to leave work. I left work early because there were so many people trying to get into that house to see the inside. Luckily, I had a lockbox. I was smart enough to put a lockbox on the door. But there was one guy who was really persistent. He said, hey, I want to buy this right now. I can meet you right now. Let's do it. I have to earn this money. I'll buy it for $28,000. So that's $8,000. So in my head, I had a bunch of other people that were interested, but they offered lower prices. Some offered 25, some offered 26. He's offering 28. And he's like, hey, I want it now. One of the guys was a little upset when I sold it to him, because he was like, hey, you should have told me. I would offer it a little bit higher. Kind of had to save grace on that one. I had to save the relationship. But I just say that to basically give everybody the wide perspective of everything that happened. So I ended up selling that property, and this was 3 weeks after I even saw that Killer Mike show, the Mark Whitten interview, even started his course. It had only been 3 weeks, and I'd already had my $8,000 assignment. So I kind of wanted to start this channel so everyone could kind of learn my story, and I can start to, educate some of the people that, ask me a lot of stuff. There are a bunch of guys out on the internet that I look up to. After finding Mark Whitten, I found Max Maxwell, one of my, people want to go to concerts and meet Jay-Z or Beyonce or NBA Youngboy or whoever it is they're trying to meet at that time. People want to do that. I want to sit down with Max Maxwell. When I first learned about wholesaling and got this first deal on the contract, he had a Wholesaling Elite live event in Dallas, Texas, only an hour away from me. But my check didn't get there. I got my check 4 or 5 days after that, and I was like, wow, man, I wish we could have just moved a little bit faster on that. I could have went and shook the man's hand. I talked to Mark Whitten a few times and thanked him a few times on teaching me everything that I needed to know. But there are a bunch of guys out there, Sean Terry, Chris Chico, just so many guys out there that are teaching this online. Not necessarily teaching it, but they're just sharing their journey, sharing their expertise, giving their knowledge out. And I look up to those guys greatly. And there are a bunch of guys that, reach out to me just off of Instagram because they see my progression, and they're asking me to teach them and mentor them. And like I said before, I don't think I'm in a spot to do that right now, but what I can do is share my story like I am today and continue to share my story, share my journey. I'm going to be taking this camera with me everywhere I go from now on, and I'll be here talking to you guys. Hopefully you'll be interested in listening. So yeah, that was basically how I got into wholesaling. It doesn't necessarily happen that quickly for everyone. It doesn't necessarily happen that slowly for everyone. I try to tell everyone that in the beginning, and I definitely try to tell them this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. Every single one of my jobs, every single one of my 50 jobs that I probably had, all correlated into this one mindset and this one attribute that I had to have in order to do this business. The customer service part, HVAC contracting, knowing what looks like what, and being a maintenance supervisor, having to do drywall and having to do these other carpentry and things like that I already kind of knew. So it kind of helped me out along the way. But yeah, I do want to let everybody know that this is very, very possible. It's definitely changed my life, and I'm going to continue to tell my story here on YouTube and let everybody know what's going on. And yeah, anybody have any questions on how I got to where I got, and anything that you want answered specifically, just leave it down in the comments. I'll try to make a video specific to that. If you guys are looking for me and want to ask me any questions, usually on Instagram, in Instagram name I'll put maybe over here somewhere I'll put it somewhere, but it's Marks, and yeah, I'm mainly on Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter as much, but under Twitter, it's going to be the same name, Marks. Facebook, it's going to be the same name, Marks. Eventually, I'm going to come out with a group, Wholesaling Extreme group on Facebook, so everyone can start to ask me questions and ask my team questions. I do have a team now. It's a very, very small team. My main partner, Josh, is in the group. I have a couple other partners in this as well that I work closely with, trying to get them their first deals. But kind of want to let you guys know how I started in this, and next time we'll probably be talking about that first deal that I mentioned, the ins and out, what I did to get that deal, what I looked for, the contracts I used, the mistakes that happened, everything from start to finish. Will probably be my next video. So yeah, I appreciate you guys listening to me. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to entertain me and my story. So I'm gonna check out. It's around 3:40, and I have babies, so I have to go tend to my kids. As you guys can see, I'm a huge anime fan. All the anime guys out there, you see it. I got my guy Max, Mark Whitten over here, little brother and his team right there. Those are my guys. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna check out. See you guys next time.